Hello again guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're back for another Mach Loop Time Trial. In the previous episode of the series we took the A2A Spitfire around the Mach Loop, so I thought that it would only be fair in this video that we give the spiritual sister aircraft of the Supermarine Spitfire a chance to set a competitive time, and the aircraft that I'm talking about is of course the Hawker Hurricane. The particular version that you can see in front of you is the Aeroplane Heaven Hawker Hurricane Mark 1. Whilst Aeroplane Heaven have done a very nice job with the visual modelling and the sounds of the aircraft, unfortunately the system's fidelity is nowhere near the same level as the A2A Spitfire. Engine management is relatively straightforward on the Aeroplane Heaven Hawker Hurricane, actually giving it a little bit of an advantage over its real-world counterpart. That being said, it is a Hawker Hurricane and it is a Mark 1, unlike the Mark 2B Spitfire that we flew around the Mach Loop. So I think I could already make a pretty educated guess as to which aircraft will make the quicker run. Nonetheless, I still wanted to give the Hurricane a fair shot, and to me it just felt right that the Hurricane should succeed the Spitfire in this series. Anyway guys, I do hope you enjoyed the video. As always, if you do, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. If you have any comments or questions for me, please leave them down in the comments section below. But now let's head up into the skies and towards the Mach Loop. So in front of us we have the Hawker Hurricane Mark 1. The Hawker Hurricane was a British single-seat fighter aircraft designed during the 1930s, predominantly built by the Hawker Aircraft Company for service with the Royal Air Force. Obviously the poor old Hurricane is somewhat overshadowed by the Supermarine Spitfire. Actually though, the Hurricane had a very prolific service history, accounting for around 60% of all the losses sustained by the Luftwaffe during the Battle of Britain. Whilst the Hawker Hurricane may not be quite as sleek as the Supermarine Spitfire, the aircraft's design and manufacturing methods used much more conventional techniques for the time, meaning that the Hawker Hurricane was much easier and quicker to manufacture, as well as being much more straightforward for frontline squadrons to repair if the aircraft suffered any battle damage. Generally speaking, although the Hawker Hurricane certainly was the winner in terms of ruggedness and durability, it lost out somewhat to the Supermarine Spitfire in terms of performance. That, coupled with the fact that today we'll be running a Hawker Hurricane Mark 1 with an early Mark of Merlin engine, means that we're not really expecting the Hurricane to give the Spitfire a particularly close fight in today's run around the Mach Loop. However, I think that the flight should still be a very enjoyable one. So let's now head to the cockpit of the Hawker Hurricane Mark 1 and begin our run. So as usual, working our way in towards Mach Loop, the town just off at our 1 o'clock currently. And again, I've been trying to keep the Merlin engine as cool as I can on the way down to the town, just to maximise the temperature margins that we have for the run. Currently about 100 degrees on the radiator temperature. We'll open up the Merlin now. So there's full boosts. Just passing over the road, we'll start the stopwatch and head down the valley. The engine temperature management modelling on the Aeroplane Heaven Hawker Hurricane is vastly inferior to the A2A Spitfire, so we don't have to worry too much about engine temperature during this run, but we'll still keep an eye on things and continue to monitor. We should be able to make the run quite easily at full boost. So currently at 100 degrees, we've got the radiator fully closed as well actually, just to minimise the drag. As usual, following the river down the valley. We'll slowly drift towards the left of the valley just to minimise the distance through the corner as we head out towards Dinas Melthui. As usual, tracking the river and the B404 initially. Here's the B404 bridge just coming up now. Passing overhead the top of that, we've got Glantwimmin just off at our 2 o'clock there. And slowly coming around to the left now to hug the hills. Just make out Malchquid off at our 1 o'clock. Hugging the hills, making this gentle left turn down the valley up towards the north. And just like we did in the Spitfire, really the aim of this run is to absolutely minimise the distance of the run as much as possible. We're not going to be able to achieve anything more on the speed. Currently doing about 285 miles an hour, about 10 miles an hour slower than the Spitfire. Tracking out to the north now, following the A470. The Aeroplane Heaven Hawker Hurricane sounds, I have to say, very nice. The Merlin sounding rather throaty out in front of us. So peeling away from the road, pointing towards the hill for now. Again, we'll hug this hill on our left. And bring the aircraft round to point it straight at the town of Dinas Malhui. There's the town off the nose. So passing over the town now, just again hugging the hills, turning to the left. A little bit wider on the turn there, but not wanting to pull excessive G. That'll bleed off too much speed. We could have optimised that turn slightly more. Anyway, continuing to hug the hills, left turn again, out towards Bulch. And Bulch just off the nose, continuing to follow the A470, that's just down below, off the right of the gun sight. Bleeding off some speed as we make the climb up the hill. Speed coming back to around 270 knots just before we crest the top of the hill here. Actually closer to 260 knots, 260 miles an hour even. And over the crest of the hill, letting the aircraft come back down, building up that speed again. Engine temperature is actually coming down, which again just shows that the systems modelling isn't particularly brilliant on the Aeroplane Heaven Hawker Hurricane. About 95 degrees now. Following the A470 out towards Cross Foxes Inn. And turning overhead. And following the A487 now down into the valley. So engine temperature and oil temperature are absolutely fine, they're not going to be a concern for the run, I don't think. Again, we'll hug the hill, make a turn out to the right towards Sinmingil. There's the lake just off in front of us. And of course, as usual, before we hit the lake, we'll turn left into Corris Corner. Merlin engine continuing to purr away in front of us. So cutting into Corris as tightly as we would like. And again, a nice sweeping turn out towards the left. Yeah, just continuing to follow the valley, round towards the town of Corris. Radiator temperature still coming down. It's absolutely bizarre, we're doing max boost with the radiator fully closed. Somehow the radiator temperature is falling. Anyway, passing over the town of Corris. Just a slight climb to clear the treetops. And again now just tracking out to exit the valley, tracking back towards the town of Mach. Put the aircraft back into a slight dive just to steal every mile an hour that we can. And again sweeping out to the right to come back over the road. So passing over the road now, stop the stopwatch, come back on the boost, and we'll come back on the RPM. So overall not a bad run in the Hawker Hurricane. We definitely could have improved the turn slightly over Dinas Malhui as we mentioned, but generally speaking we kept the engine pegged throughout the run I don't think there was much more room for improvement. The Aeroplane Heaven Hawker Hurricane certainly not on a par with the A2A Spitfire, but still very enjoyable to fly and overall felt quite convincing. So there you go guys, I do hope that you enjoyed our trip around the Mach Loop in the Aeroplane Heaven Hawker Hurricane. The aircraft managed a time of 6 minutes 18.39 seconds, putting it about 7 seconds behind the Supermarine Spitfire and currently at the bottom of the leaderboard. No major surprises there, I don't think. Obviously you would expect the Hurricane to be somewhat slower than the Spitfire, especially given that this was a Hurricane Mark 1 and the Spitfire that we flew around the loop was a Mark 2B. As always guys, I do hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. If you have any comments or questions for me, please leave them down in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. But for now, thanks very much and I'll see you all again soon.